So space, night, death, darkness, not being there is an essential component of being there. You don't have the one without the other. That's the way being is made up.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live, episode 134 on this Sunday, October 9th, 2022. We had a busy week last week, so let's get to it. As always, this is a live Q&A session, so if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. Just make sure to tag my name at @rawspace so that we're sure to see them, and I will address the questions at the end. All right. Getting into it. Oh, something didn't work. There we go. Last Tuesday, a ULA Atlas V launched the SES-20 and SES-21 geostationary comsats for SES Luxembourg.
Status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur. Go SES.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying SES-20 and 21 for SES, the leading provider of global content connectivity solutions.
After 15 seconds into flight, the U has gone closed loop control. Coming up on 30 seconds into flight, RE-180 is throttled back as expected. Engine response looks good.
You're hearing the voice of Jesse Gonzalez providing launch vehicle ascent data.
And 40 seconds into flight, Atlas V is now supersonic. And the vehicle is now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure.
Okay. Sorry, I had to get one more duck in a row there. If we fast forward a bit to, let's see, 2641, they got some great Earth views during the ascent. Let me speed this up a bit.
Good burnout on all 3 SRBs. Stand by for SRB jettison in about 20 seconds.
Not the greatest resolution, but the angle was great. Booster SEP.
And we have good jettison of all 3 SRBs. And the vehicle's gone closed loop guidance. And the RE-180 is throttled down as expected. Engine response continues to look good. About 2 minutes remaining in the boost phase flight. the vehicle is now 45 miles in altitude, 7 miles downrange, traveling at 55
All
miles
right.
per hour.
Then on Wednesday, SpaceX launched the Crew-5 mission to the space station. On board the Crew Dragon Endurance spacecraft were NASA astronauts Nicole Mann and Josh Casada, Japanese astronaut Koichi Wakata, and Russian cosmonaut Anna Kikina. First, let's check out the launch.
T-minus 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engines full power. And liftoff.
Seriously excited there. So unfortunately, so SpaceX and then me consequently live stream most launches in 4K resolution. Unfortunately, whenever SpaceX partners with NASA for a broadcast, whenever it's a joint broadcast between NASA and SpaceX piggybacks on top of NASA's feed. They basically rebroadcast NASA, which is in 720p. And so, unfortunately, what that means is, even though we get to see Starlinks and various other SpaceX launches in beautiful 4K, for the most important launches, the Crew launches, we only get to see 720p, which is really tragic. And I've talked about the issue of NASA broadcast resolution many times, but you know, it is what it is. We get what we get. So I am considering doing a 4K AI upscale of the launch, but we shall see. It's kind of late now. I don't think anybody, you and I might care, but I don't think the average citizen is paying attention to the Crew launch anymore. And here's the booster landing, followed by spacecraft separation.
That call out for Shannon, Ireland, indicative of our final abort zone. After this, we'll see second stage shut off, and we'll be listening for confirmation of a good orbit, which tells us the Crew and Dragon are exactly where they need to be.
And there we had confirmation that the
Stage
MVAC
1 landing burn.
has shut down simultaneously. The entry.
Dragon SpaceX nominal orbit insertion.
And you heard that call for a good insertion. We will coast for a few minutes.
There we can see the drone ship coming into view as Falcon 9 attempts.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
You can see those landing legs have now deployed. And as you can see on your screen, and you can hear by the clapping and cheering behind me, Falcon 9 has landed on our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
And this is actually from my summary video, so the spacecraft separation followed immediately thereafter.
We are standing by for second stage separation. And there is separation.
Dragon separation confirmed. And Dragon, decision instructor. Dragon copy.
So it's interesting that on the Crew launches, the trunk of the Crew Dragon, which is that unpressurized storage area there at the bottom of the spacecraft, is empty. They don't typically send up much, if any, cargo in the trunk, which is curious because they're spending the money to get the Crew up there. So I'm not sure why they don't take advantage of the launch opportunity and get some cargo up there too. But who knows? Like, for example, I think there's still a couple of IROSA solar panels which need to be delivered to the station that have never been, that have yet to be delivered and installed. Okay, so, yes. It took Crew-5 about 28 hours to get to the space station, where they'll spend the next 6 months. As always, during Crew Dragon broadcasts, there are lots of questions as to why it takes so long for Crew Dragon to get to the station versus the Soyuz, which launches from Baikonur in Kazakhstan and gets there in just over 3 hours, I think is their record. The reason is because, the reason involves orbital mechanics that are beyond my expertise, but the basic reason is because the inclination of the space station was optimized specifically for launches from Baikonur, whereas it is not optimized for launches from Florida. They have to basically do more orbital corrections in order to catch up with the space station or get on its trajectory when they launch from Florida. And so it takes longer. It's not because Falcon 9 is a less capable rocket or the Crew Dragon is a less capable spacecraft. It purely has to do with the orbital inclination, that is the angle of the ISS's orbit around the Earth in relation to the location of the launch site. All right, now here is Nicole Mann coming through the hatch. She now has the distinction of being the first Native American female to fly in space. This comes 20 years after the first Native American man, John Harrington, back in 2002.
To live and stay aboard the International Space Station. All hugs and smiles going around. Next one through the hatch is Josh Cassada, the pilot of Dragon. He's getting his welcome and hellos from the crew aboard International Space Station. And we see right now, right past Nicole Mann's hair, is Koichi Wakata of JAXA coming through the hatch.
Look at that hair. I love long hair in space. They need to get a hippie up there, some dude with like flowing locks floating around. And last but not least, to come through the hatch, well, yes, that is right, Jimbo, Native American female, Nicole Mann, look her up. Last but not least, Anna Kikina. This was the first time in 20 years that a Russian cosmonaut launched on an American spacecraft. Not since November 2002, when cosmonaut Nikolai Budarin flew on the Space Shuttle Endeavour with crewmates Ken Bowersox and Don Pettit. You may recognize those names from shuttle missions of yore. In addition, Anna is the first Russian female to fly on an American spacecraft, and she's currently the only female cosmonaut in active service over in Russia. I'm not sure how big their cosmonaut corps is, but in contrast with the NASA's astronaut corps. But in any case, she is the only female right now. Just 7 hours after the Crew-5 launch, SpaceX launched another Falcon 9, this one from the opposite side of the country at perpetually foggy Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. On board was another batch of Starlink satellites.
15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine full power. And liftoff of Starlink 429. Go Falcon 9. Vehicles pitching downrange. M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
beautiful launch and once we could see it, and the landing back through the fog, the marine layer fog to the drone ship in the Pacific.
Also hear call-outs for second engine cutoff as well as hopefully good orbit.
Stage 2 terminal guidance. Stage 1 landing burn.
So there we can see the landing burn has begun. Rushing through the clouds, and there's the drone ship
Stage 2
now in view.
FPS has saved. Landing leg deploy.
And there you can see on your
Stage 1 landing
screen
confirmed.
and heard there with the call out, Falcon 9 has successfully landing, marking the 145th landing of an orbital class rocket.
SpaceX was supposed to launch a third Falcon the very next day, Thursday, but the Falcon 9 rocket triggered an automatic shutdown at T-minus 30 seconds due to a small helium leak. Now, helium isn't explosive. In fact, it is the least reactive of all elements, but that very quality makes it perfect for pressurizing fuel tanks, which is what it's used for in the Falcon 9. The launch did happen on Friday, though, delivering Galaxy 33 and Galaxy 34 communication satellites into a geostationary transfer orbit. As I mentioned last week, NASA's only 4K UHD broadcast is transmitted via the Galaxy 13 satellite, part of the same constellation operated by Intelsat. Unfortunately, that UHD broadcast typically does not include live events such as launches, dockings, landings, things like that. It's mainly just Earth view replays and vignettes from onboard the space station. But here we are with the launch.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff from Falcon 9. Go Falcon, go Intelsat Galaxy 33 and 34. Falcon 9 is pitching down range.
Now, we're accustomed to some pretty amazing views, particularly from SpaceX launches, and this one did not disappoint. SpaceX's camera tracking system did a stellar job of locking onto the rocket during staging and fairing separation, as we'll see in a moment in this sped-up replay.
Stage separation confirmed. And back ignition.
There we go, those three events back to back. So with that, the first stage will start making its way back to planet Earth for recovery. Our second stage has a pretty long burn to go. Next major milestone here will be coming up at about T plus 3.5 minutes. That'll be fairing deployment.
Look at that. You see the little RCS thrusters puffing on the upper stage on the upper right, and then to the lower left is the first stage booster. And there is the... wait a minute. No. I'm sorry. You were looking at the first stage on the upper right, and on the left was the upper stage, and the fairings separated from the upper stage. So those thrusters puffs were reorienting the first stage booster for re-entry and landing again on the drone ship. And then the space jellyfish. The drone ship cam captured a fantastic view of the launch plume backlit by the sunset, which we'll see here.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Landing
And
burn
back
startup.
engine cutoff.
You just heard the call out there for second engine cutoff on the second stage.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing is confirmed.
Awesome. Successful
Stage 2
landing
nominal orbit insertion.
on our drone ship about
Expected losses.
I love how it lined up perfectly so that you can see the first stage booster land with its own launch plume in the background. That's incredible. But I apologize, I did accidentally skip. Let me jump back to the previous video. Oh dear. Okay. All right, let's slow this down. Messed up because I was actually supposed to play.
So we're going to see you back here.
Supposed to keep playing that tracking video here. Now here's where they actually mentioned the jellyfish. It was actually a little more brilliant before the landing. By the time of the landing, the sun had gone down. It was couple minutes later, the sun had gone down further a little bit below the horizon and didn't quite illuminate the plume in the background quite as much as it did here. So let's check this out.
That will ignite 3 of the Merlin 1D engines, starting with the center engine, and then 2 of the radial engines. And that's amazing. That's a great view. You can see we just launched at the perfect time here, so we're catching sunlight off of the top of the Earth's atmosphere. It's reflecting off of the plume of the rocket. I love to call this.
I should have muted that because of the music, which I'll get to later. But yeah, so here, let's freeze frame that sucker. That was one of the most amazing shots of a SpaceX launch I've ever seen, from the drone ship of the rocket ascending on its way to land on that very same drone ship. It's just an incredible, just good timing and alignment of everything. But now, launches are not about landings, though. They're about payloads. So here, let's see, is the satellite deployment of those 2 Galaxy satellites.
Galaxy 34, deploy confirmed.
And Galaxy 34 going off to join the constellation and its partner satellite Galaxy 33. All of us here at SpaceX want to give a big thank you to our customer.
Okay. So, that was one of the most photogenic SpaceX launches yet. Unfortunately, for those of us who restream these things, the music monetizer Vidya has been inundating us with copyright claims on the space jams that SpaceX plays during their broadcasts, before, after, and then during their coast phases. They never used to generate claims, but now they do. I disputed a bunch of them. At first, my disputes were accepted, and the claims were released. But lately, Vidya has been rejecting my disputes and doubling down on their claims. And I've been hesitant to appeal their rejections, because that elevates the matter to the level where YouTube gets involved. And if I'm wrong, and they do have a valid claim, then I could get copyright strikes on my channel. 3 copyright strikes, and I could lose the channel. So I'm not about to do that unless I'm absolutely sure that I'm on solid ground. So, yeah, I really need to figure out the specific song names and artists that are being claimed, since the artist info is suspiciously hidden in Vidya's claims, which I've mentioned before, and then reach out directly to those artists, both Test Shot Starfish or any others that happen to be represented, and then ask them what their own copyright desires are for the songs, just to be clear, because it was my understanding that it was okay to rebroadcast those songs in context as they were used in the SpaceX streams. But again, I want to get that straight from the artists themselves. The copyright claim system on YouTube is ridiculous. It is rife with fraud and hugely inconvenient, not to mention costly for channels that are monetized, but let's not open that can of worms again right now. I would pay serious money if an audio engineer out there were able to provide me with a way to automatically silence or otherwise mask music in a live media stream. I'm serious about that. I'm a career computer programmer myself, but I've never worked with audio, and I don't think I have the brain cells to tackle that tricky a problem. Also on Friday, not to be forgotten, a Rocket Lab Electron rocket launched the Gazelle satellite with the Argos 4 environmental data collection system payload.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
ignition,
2, 1. Liftoff.
Stage 1 proportional, nominal.
So you see a lot of sparks coming out of the Rutherford engines there on the Electron first stage. There's been a lot of like sort of armchair discussion of why there's so many sparks. Like, is there ablative material on the inside of the engine which is being burned away by the exhaust? Because this is an RP-1 LOX rocket, similar to, I mean, it uses the same fuel as the Falcon 9, same as the Saturn V did. Yeah, so why are there all those sparks? Because they do aim to reuse the Electron rockets. I mean, they have fished more than one of them out from the water, and actually, I believe they have reused one of those rockets, one of those boosters. I could be mistaken there, but they also attempted to catch one famously with a helicopter under a parachute. They ended up having to release it because of it was yanking the helicopter around, but they did fish it out of the water. But in any case, yeah, I don't think I've heard a definitive explanation as to why there's so many sparks during Electron launches, but nonetheless, it is normal and doesn't cause a problem. Rounding out Friday, a Chinese Long March 11 rocket launched from a platform on the Yellow Sea for the first time. On board were the Centospace 1, S5, and S6 test satellites. These will monitor the performance of the global navigation system and conduct inter-satellite laser communication tests similar to Starlink. What's particularly interesting about this launch is that the Long March 11, unless I'm grossly mistaken, has also launched from land, and so it is the same rocket that has launched from both land and sea, which is pretty neat. I certainly don't think that we have any rockets that have done that. But finally, on Saturday, a Long March 2D launched from Jiuquan with the Advanced Space-Based Solar Observatory, or ASOS. This satellite will observe the solar magnetic field, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections in order to aid forecasting of space weather. Dagnabbit, I got my microphone turned off. All right, let me try this again. That about rounds out the last week. Looking ahead to this week, tonight, Sunday the 9th, is a full moon. I've noticed that it's been quite bright the last couple of nights. I wanted to try taking some photos of it with my new camera. Unfortunately, my big 600 millimeter zoom lens is not compatible with my new camera. I've tried every which way, setting it to all manual, and with as little like aperture, exposure, focus, everything manual, and it doesn't matter. As soon as I press the shutter release button, the camera throws an error, and it refuses to recognize the lens. So my old zoom lens is straight up incompatible with the new camera, which is really tragic because it was a pricey lens, and to get a new one for the new camera will cost, good Lord, I don't know, $2,500 maybe. In any case, I'll cross that bridge at a later time. But looking ahead to this week, beyond the full moon, Tuesday, October 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC, NASA will give an update on the results of their double asteroid redirection test. As you surely know, DART was deliberately crashed into the moonlet asteroid Dimorphos a couple of weeks ago to see how much we could alter its orbit around its parent asteroid Didymos. I'll have a copy of the live broadcast here for you on Raw Space. Now, I don't host a lot of sort of NASA conferences, but this is a pretty important one because it's essentially they're going to be telling us the results of the DART test, which is very exciting. Later on the 11th at 8:50 p.m. Eastern, 50 UTC on the 12th, a Japanese Epsilon rocket will launch the RAISE-3 demonstration satellite. Per JAXA, this date is confirmed, and I will be bringing you a live stream. And yes, there will be live coverage of it. I wasn't sure previously, but I've confirmed that will be available. Wednesday, October 12th at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 15:05 UTC, a Russian Proton-M will launch from Baikonur with the Angosat-2 ComSat for the country of Angola. I'm not sure whether there will be a live stream or not. If Roscosmos provides it, I'll have a copy for you here. But it's a commercial launch. Their military launches don't have live coverage, but some of their commercial ones do, so we'll just have to wait and see. And then Thursday, October 13th at 11:25 p.m. Eastern, 03:25 UTC on the 14th, SpaceX might launch the Hotbird 13F TV broadcast geostationary satellite. There's been some disagreement amongst the launch schedule sites. One site, which I've typically found to be quite reliable, was updated yesterday to state that the launch was scheduled for December. But a couple of other schedule sites show the launch as still being targeted for the 13th. So we'll just have to wait and see, which is kind of my motto. I don't like to count chickens before they're hatched. And if there's a stream, I'll stream it. If there's not a stream, then obviously I can't stream it. But also on the 13th, the Crew-4 crew is scheduled to come home from the ISS. On board the Crew Dragon will be Samantha Cristoforetti, Kjell Lindgren, Bob Hines, and Jessica Watkins. Interestingly, Samantha Cristoforetti, an Italian astronaut, is currently the ISS commander, but she was only handed the reins of the ISS, as it were, a couple of weeks ago when the previous Soyuz crew departed and landed in Kazakhstan. So I guess a very short commandership for Samantha Cristoforetti. But nonetheless, she is the current commander, and she'll be passing that off the day prior to their departure. However, I don't have specific times for any of the undocking, deorbit, and landing events because they have not yet been posted by NASA. but it is scheduled for the 13th. So again, stay tuned for specific times on that. And that is about it for the coming week. I want to take a moment to heartily thank the channel supporters who have stuck with me through thick and thin. And on YouTube, there's a lot of a lot of thin. Thickness. But yeah, a lot of thin on YouTube, but here we remain. If you're interested in supporting the channel, options include Patreon at patreon.com/rawspace, merch store with shirts, not like this one because this is a SpaceX shirt, but like most of the other shirts I wear, at shop.rawspace.live, and for individual donations at paypal.me/rawspacevideos. SpaceWeek is also available as an audio podcast on Libsyn, iTunes, Amazon, TuneIn, Samsung, and others. All right, let me get to your questions. Let's see if they were collated. All right. Not seeing that. All right, let me scroll up to the beginning. Maybe there were no questions. There are a lot of comments. The jellyfish thing was awesome. Can't wait for the next launch. Please hit the like. That's a given. Shannon Woods asked if Crew-4 is coming home. Yes, they're scheduled to return on the 13th. Scanning for more questions. The Vandenberg launch descending back down toward the drone ship looked like falling into whipped cream. Yeah, those low-level clouds are very poofy. Although if it were whipped cream, that's far more dense than clouds, so that would not bode well for the rocket. Some creme brulee. All right, so I'm not actually seeing any questions, which is, well, there is, okay, so Elmo Jones, why not use classical music pre-1925? I began answering that in the chat, but I had to divert my attention to actually conducting the stream, so I'll answer it now. So the problem with using old music is that old music, like, let's say, you could use a medieval, or Renaissance tune. The problem is it still has to be performed by someone in contemporary times, I mean, like, unless you're using literally a vintage recording from like 1920 or something, which would be really odd for a space broadcast. But, even classical music that's 400, 500, 600 years old, somebody's still performing it now, and that performance is copyrighted. So you're kind of hosed regardless of any way you cut it. There's no way, like, unless you're specifically playing music that is stated as being copyright and royalty free, that you're out of luck. And I do. This channel, as a matter of fact, I'll post the track list. This channel has a whole library of copyright music that I have personally curated from a number of sources, although there's a couple of artists in particular that I use a lot of, co.ag or coag, and White Bat Audio, Carl Casey at White Bat Audio, but also others. In any case, all of the music that I play is copyright free. The music that SpaceX plays used to be copyright free. At least it used to be, I should say, it used to not generate copyright claims, but now it does. So anyway, if I can fight through that battle, then, that'll be great. If I can't, like if they do have a legit claim and SpaceX streams are now riddled with copyrighted music, then that will be a pain in the butt going forward, because SpaceX does a lot of launches, and I will have to either just let them remain, like let the claims sit there, which is no fun, or I'll have to really micromanage the audio and like dub over whenever any music kicks in, which is no fun for the viewers, because if there's mission control audio, you're not going to hear it. If there's commentary over the music, you're not going to hear it. It sucks all the way around for restreamers, you know. I mean, summaries where you're not hearing the original stream audio, not such a big deal. But for the live streams, it is a big deal. In any case, that about wraps it up for this week. Make sure to like and subscribe, of course. That does help the YouTube algorithm know that you appreciate this content. And if you're still here, then chances are you enjoyed at least some part of this. So keep it raw, and until next time, see you later.